Hey everyone, welcome back to the Stories That Shape Us. We have a very special episode today. First off, I want to wish a happy Mother's Day to all the amazing mothers out there. Today is for you. As always, I'm your host, Brock Doty, and joining me today, my co-host is my younger brother, Mark Doty, and today
Hello.
we're celebrating a very incredible woman in our lives, our mom, Carrie Doty. So, for those who don't know us or our story, our mom has been a constant source of strength, love, and wisdom in our life growing up. If you didn't know, she was a single mom raising two boys and somehow managed to give us everything we needed and more, even on the toughest days. So, as we celebrate Mother's Day today, I'd like to take a moment to reflect on the story that shaped both Mark and I. The story that begins with our mom's unwavering dedication to both of us. I can only imagine what it was like raising two rambunctious boys. I'm sure it wasn't easy, but she made it look effortless and she gave up so much along the way. And even in the hardest moments, she never stopped fighting for us. And she was right by our side through it all. The highs, the lows, every step of the way. So this episode is a chance to hear directly from her and what it was like for her being a single mom, the values that she worked tirelessly to instill in us, and the quiet sacrifices that she made that most people never even saw. My brother Mark is here with me too, and together we're going to honor my mom and sit down with her and share some laughs about our childhood, ask some questions, and just see how she stayed afloat with a house of two wild boys that are just 4 years apart. So without further ado, Mom, you have shaped our lives in ways that words cannot fully express. And today we're honored to share a piece of that story with the world. Happy Mother's Day. We love you. And thank you for the time sitting down with us on my podcast, The Stories That Shape Us.
Big sacrifice, bud. Happy
Um,
to do it.
well, I'm happy you're here. So let's just jump right into it. What do you remember most about those first few years of raising Mark and I, and what stands out to you?
Oh gosh. Do you know it was like a long time ago?
27 years ago, you were
Yeah, to
pregnant.
be exact. Um, Being a single mom with little boys was hard, but it was easy for me because I'm a child development specialist. So I knew what to do with you boys. I was in my element when you were babies and toddlers. Were there hard times? Yeah. Um, Yeah, absolutely. I remember I was up in the middle of the night with Mark and you woke up, Brock, and you got sick. And sorry, Mark, but I kind of laid you down on the floor and walked away so I could go take care of Brock, who was yarking all over everything. And that night stands out to me because Brock, you were screaming. You were always a puker. You still are a puker. But Mark was just pissed because I'd put him down and he's laying in the middle of the living room floor just screaming like a banshee. And you're screaming because you're barfing everywhere. That was an epic night, but we got through it. You get through it, and that's any parent, whether you're a single parent or you're able to co-parent, or you're in the same household as parents and sharing it. You have your highs and lows and you just figure out how to navigate it, and pretty soon you're looking back going, wow. But I was in my element when you boys were little. When you got into school, then things kind of started to test me, Mark. And
Can be me. What do you wish people understood about single mothers that often goes unseen or unspoken?
I think there truly needs to be a definition between co-parenting and single parenting. um, There's also solo parenting. I know that those are kind of some words going around, but I was a solo single parent. There wasn't any child support coming in. I didn't have weekends, every other weekends. I didn't have somebody to share things with. But when you truly are a solo parent, as I was, um, you navigate it. And I'm sorry, Mark, I can't remember the rest.
Yeah. No, I think you hit the question pretty good.
Okay.
Was there was there ever a point early on when you thought, I have no idea what the hell I'm doing or how I'm going to do this? And what is it that helped you through those tough times?
Alcohol. No, I'm
Oh,
kidding. Drink. It's just my favorite thing to say. Um, oh my
You're a
gosh.
child development specialist. You're not allowed to say alcohol.
Uh, yeah, believe me, I do. Okay, what was the question?
Was there ever a point early on when you thought, I have no idea what I'm doing and how I'm going to do this? And what is it that helped you?
In all honesty, I I can't remember ever feeling that way. I will never ever regret raising you boys as a single parent. I regret it in a lot of ways for you both because you didn't have a dad, but you had grandpas and you had strong men in your lives and your coaches with sports and different people that influenced you. Um, but I loved being a mom. It's all I ever wanted to do was be a mom. And having you boys, it just filled my cup to overflowing. Yeah, there were overwhelming times. I'm human and everybody gets overwhelmed with things. Finances would get tight, trying to navigate some of the things that were going on. Many times just somebody to share in the highs and the lows and the joys and somebody to be there with you when things got stressful or that probably was the hardest is I didn't have anybody to really share the funny things, the scary things, the happy things. It was just kind of me. I mean, my friends and family, but somebody within the home. It was just the three of us and our happy little family. I worked very hard to try to make up for the loss of it being a nuclear family. It was just the three of us. I wouldn't trade it for anything. I regret nothing. Being a mom is what I was meant to be, and having both of you is just made my dreams come true, truly. I didn't want a girl. So I think the good Lord knew what he was doing giving me boys.
Hallelujah.
right
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, I was the middle of three girls and I know what we did to our parents. So yeah, I didn't want girls.
I'm sure we raised some hell, right, Mark?
Oh man, we were terrible. All the fights we used to get into, and mom would have to mediate them.
It
Oh
was never
yeah.
a fist fight, though. It was always just I was antagonizing you, or before you got bigger than me, I'd pin you down, but we never got in a fist fight.
There was a couple times where we got in a fist fight.
I kicked you both out of the minivan one time, made you walk home. Do you remember that?
No, where were we
You
going?
never.
I
What?
picked you up from school and we were on our way home and you two were absolutely just sparring at one another and we were only a couple of blocks from home and I stopped the car and I'm like, get out and walk. I'm not going to listen to that. And so you did. It was a
Period.
good
Right
lesson.
on.
I was a strict mom when you boys were little, even 2 years old. I was strict. I remember Brock one time you got up out of bed. You were two something, and I was fighting like crazy to get you to go to bed and stay. And I was just scared to death that if you ever got up in the night and walked out of the house, because my bedroom was in the way back, and I just was scared to death. So you got up one night and I put on my meanest nighttime Carrie voice and shooed you back to bed and you cried and oh my gosh, I felt terrible about it. But I also stand by what I did because I had to be both the mom and the dad. I had to be the loving mom, the soft mom, but there had to be a point where you knew both of you knew you'd gone too far. Like in a nuclear family, you'll have that hierarchy. You always hear mom says no, go ask dad. If dad says no, go ask mom. Well, we didn't have that. I always teach my staff the power of your voice. You cannot praise children in the same tone of voice you use to discipline. So I got really good at getting that nasty, you've pushed mom too far, the buttons we're on implode. So I got really good at that and my voice was a good tool for that. You boys knew. How do you think I got the nickname Nighttime Carrie? But you
Flying
boys
down the
knew
stairs at 3 in the morning, Do you know what time it is?
Yeah,
Summertime.
exactly.
It's summertime.
Yeah, but I still had to get up and go to work.
You went to work at 5 a.m. and we were still up once.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you had a sleepover with a buddy. I remember that. My goal there, I didn't care that you guys were up. What I cared about is having respect for other people in the house. Because I was home and I still had to get up and go to work, and I didn't get to have summers off and that sort of thing. I worked year round, and so that was kind of my thing, is to just have respect for other people in the house. You can stay up till 5 in the morning. I don't care. It was summer, but waking me up, uh-uh. Right, Mark?
That was I felt like I did that quite a bit when I had sleepovers. Is I would always wake you up. I would actually always wake you up. I didn't even have friends over. I'd be playing video games downstairs, and then next thing you know, you'd come down the stairs like 2 or 3 times like every night to yell at me and scold me, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry."
What's crazy is the game room downstairs was right next to my bedroom and I didn't hear it. But you heard it upstairs through the vents
Through the vents.
because it went through the air ducts.
Yep, right up into my room. And let me just say that neither one of you were quiet video game players. I mean, Brock, to this day, if he's gaming with somebody, he's like spastic. He's standing and he's sitting and he's this and he's that, and Mark is just the silent giant. But his mouth is going, "Oh, come on. Really?" And that's
Dude,
what
I'd yell at the
I'm
game.
hearing. Is you yelling at your game. But I didn't know at the time that you were on with other people. But oh yeah,
Yeah,
many nights.
yeah, for sure. I wanted to ask you, Brock and I are 4 years apart. What was it like raising two different boys 4 years apart from each other?
That's a lot of testosterone in that household.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know. It was fine. I
yeah.
mean, my whole background, my whole life, I have worked with children, early childhood. 0 to 5, 0 to 6. Um, it really was fine. I was blessed because you guys came to work with me at the centers, and that truly was a blessing that I could have you with me, so I could send Brock off to school and Mark and I would go to work, and then Mark would come home with me and we'd go pick up Brock from school. The age difference was great in my opinion. I loved it. Where things got hard, truly, was when both of you were in sports. And that's where Brock kind of took the short end of the stick, especially when it came to middle school and high school sports, because I couldn't be two places at once. And so I'm just like, okay, how do I do this? So I would miss some of Brock's games because Brock was driving, and especially in high school, he was driving and he could get to his games and do things, but Mark wasn't driving yet. I had always kind of made it to the games as much as I could, but yeah, I had to miss some games because I couldn't be two places at once. And Brock has been very good at letting me know about that. So
Because
I'm
one kid cares about sports and the other kid could give a damn less.
I don't care about
Oh,
sports.
no. I'm going to argue that. Mark cared about sports. He just it wasn't his passion. Brock, it was your passion. You loved sports. You loved football. And, the only reason you ended up in wrestling is because the principal told you were going to, and I think that was great. I'm glad Mr. Larson did that. But that's where it got hard being a single parent, was having to be two places at once. And where things got hard, and I do feel bad for you, Brock, is I would have to miss your things because Mark was too little to not have a parent there. And that, yeah, I have regret with that. I don't know how I could have changed it. I mean, your grandparents lived in other towns, Grandpa Lyle came to a lot, I mean, a lot of your games, as much as he possibly could. Grandpa Lyle was there, and Grandma and Grandpa Craig came over quite a bit. But that was hard. So having you boys be 4 years apart, that was probably the biggest thing because, you know, Brock, you'd be 12 years old, you're independent and able to go do things, but Mark was 8, and that's just still
Mark used
too
to
young.
always get mad because I'd go ride bikes throughout the neighborhood, and Mark wanted to go, and he was that annoying little brother that always wanted to hang out with me and my friends, but he
Oh, poor
he couldn't
Marky.
go, and I remember he'd be so upset. But we each have different personalities. This kind of segments me to my
Yes.
next question. We both have different personalities, like night and day difference. Did
Mm-hmm.
either of us have personalities that stood out right from the beginning, where you are already could see signs of who we grow up to be today?
Oh, hell yeah. Oh, gosh. Mark, Mark was, okay, I love you both, but this is how I always described you. Brock is the lippy little chihuahua that yeah 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 yeah, and he would tell me what he needs, and he's barking in my ear. Don't forget to do this, Mom. Don't forget to do this, and just barking in my ear. And he was doing that. You know, Mom, read me a story. Mom, do this. Mom, do that. Mom, I need. I mean, just he was my yippy little chihuahua. I always knew what Brock was doing. I always knew where he was because he was so vocal with either things he needed or what have you. Mark was just this easygoing, laid back guy. I wouldn't know that Mark needed anything. He'd be coming into the house, and all of a sudden I see on the kitchen floor I got blood trails, and I'm like, oh, what'd he do? Mark. And he's downstairs. Okay, well, get up here. What's bleeding? Oh, I crashed on my bike. Um, okay, were you going to tell me? Do you need anything? What's going on? No, I'm fine. And he'd go back downstairs where Brock, instant he crashed, he's running home, doors flying open. Mom! That's the difference between you boys.
And that carried over into high school. You tell this story. I'll let you tell it, but you found a ribbon in Mark's glove box that he did place first at track or something.
Oh, yeah, this is the difference between you two. When Brock goes to do something, so I knew all about the podcast, that you were looking into it. Brock includes me in conversation, and it's not, I'm not saying either one of you are wrong. It's just your different personalities. Mark, on the other hand, I found a ribbon, and it was in the glove box of his pickup. And I'm like, what the heck? What was this for? Mark had competed in a powerlifting competition, and I knew nothing about it. And he had placed anyway. But this is the example. Then I'll just say that I knew nothing about what Mark was doing. There was no texting. There was no running anything by me or, hey, I'm doing this next Saturday, because I talk to you boys all the time. What are you doing, Mark? Oh, nothing. So he had this whole thing planned, but he's so quiet and stealth. And he's 6'4" and 280, and he's stealth. And then there's my yippy little chihuahua that's just mouthing away and telling me everything that's going on. And then I got Mark, and I find out after the fact.
Can I at
I
least be
think
upgraded to a golden retriever?
No, he's my Saint Bernard.
I think
No,
my favorite story of like me not telling you things is when I
Now,
went
wait,
and got
wait,
a
wait. Do I already know about this?
you know about this
I didn't want
because
to, I don't want to be
it
surprised.
it's a funny story. But I was hanging out with my buddies and I was going to the Mountain View Co-op and I pick up a job application and I get hired right there and I come home. I don't even tell you. And then I like the next day, I'm like, all right, I'm going to work. And you're like, what? I'm like, oh yeah, I got a job by the way.
Mom, can I have $25? I got to buy a shirt for my new job. What new job? Oh, I got a job. That is so true. Where Brock, well, I think I'm going to apply here. I think I'm going to apply there. Well, I sent resumes here. Yeah. I mean, we could tell stories about this over and over and over again. That's where you're both so fundamentally different. but where you're both so fundamentally the same is your morals and your ethics, your foundations, your love of family. The fact that I'm about to have two college graduates as a single mom, I wear that I'm proud of that. I'm really proud of that.
It's all you.
Well, it takes a village.
Yeah.
I definitely think your high school years here in Conrad had the biggest impact. I'll forever thank your principal, Ken Larson. He was amazing. I know you shared this on your podcast with Mark, but how he grabbed a hold of Mark and just said, "You're done being a meathead." And that just made the biggest impact on Mark. So, yeah, I mean, it's me. I'm your mom, but you can't discount all of those other factors of people that come into play. I think you had shared something, Brock, about allow your kids to be coached. I won't say I never did, because I did, but for the most part, I tried very hard not to step in and get in the middle of the coaches when they were coaching you. So you had a baseball coach one time, Brock, that that's where, okay, my mistake, that's probably where I struggled a little bit, is when you were younger, dropping my child development hat, because I would be like, that's not appropriate. You don't talk to kids that way. And that's where I kind of caught myself interfering, getting in the middle of things, and I needed to be more self-reflective and back off. And I did, as you guys got older and into sports, I did. Your
Did you ever
wrestling
make
coach,
any
Brock,
sacrifices
what's that?
behind the scenes that probably people didn't realize?
My sacrifices? Um, oh gosh. Well, here's the thing. To some people, their sacrifices, to me, they were gifts. I didn't, it wasn't a sacrifice for me. Yeah, you guys really didn't go without things, but you weren't just handed everything you want.
I remember I had to work because I wanted this custom pair of cleats. That's when I got my first job, my sophomore year of high school. Before I turned 16, I was getting paid under the table, and I was getting paid cash at Baskin Robbins, and I wanted this special pair of cleats because, again, football was my life, and I was just fixated on it, and you didn't want to pay for it, so you said, go get a job if you want one. But that's when I told you, hey, I applied here, I played here, I played here.
Yeah, I knew everything. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that you still have to have common sense parenting, and I would have loved to have given you guys the world and anything you asked for, but that's not healthy parenting. You have to set boundaries, just like the cleats. You want it, you got to go work for it. Mark had to work for the things that he wanted to do or uses his money. But yeah, they weren't sacrifices. I can really truly think of nothing that I gave up. I never dated in front of you boys. I didn't want to do that. I tried really hard to make sure that before I introduced you to somebody, that they were healthy and safe and good men. You think that you're going into it with something that might become a little bit more long term, but that didn't work out. That was always my big thing, is I wasn't going to parade a bunch of guys that I was dating in front of my kids. I think you met two, maybe three, over all.
This isn't necessarily a question, but it is more of like a thank you for not being a gentle parent with us. And my question going into it too is, where do you kind of see the mistake, not necessarily with single moms, but like parenting in general, between being a softer parent or that softer parenting versus more of like that stricter, harsh parenting?
Oh my gosh, you're going to get me on a soapbox. I've been in child development for over 30 years, and I think the parenting trend that we've embarked on with the gentle parenting is absolutely destroying our youth. Gentle parenting to me is, we're not allowing children to feel shame. They can't feel guilt. They're not allowed to feel sad. We're just doing everything as a society to pump up these kids. So in our error to think that this is good, this is going to lead to good mental health, but it's not. And There's no sense of responsibility. There's no sense of loyalty. I just feel that we really have to get back on track and become strict parents. I didn't know what I was doing with grade school and teenagers. I had no idea. My whole background was early childhood, newborn to 5 years old. But the biggest thing that I'll always take away from my education and my training and my years of experience is how birth to five are the formative years. That's your foundation. That's, you teach children. um it isn't just please and thank you for manners, but it's respect for other people, and it's just such a foundation for learning. I won't go off on a child development tirade, but
What kind of values and lessons did you work hardest to instill in us from an early age, though?
work ethic, respect for authority, respect for leadership. I didn't want you guys to be followers. I wanted you to be able to speak up, but being responsible. um I remember one time I had both of you boys out in the yard and we were doing yard work. And I don't know, Mark, you must have been about 5, and Brock, so that would have made you about 9. Yeah, you were in kindergarten. And I was questioned about that, they're too little. And I was like, oh, hell no, they're not. So, um, you guys cleaned. You had chores. You worked out in the yard with me. I didn't throw Mark behind the lawnmower by himself, until I felt he could be safe. But you were mowing the lawn by yourself, Brock, at 8, 9 years old.
So Mark was
Um,
probably 6 because he's so big.
yeah, Mark could handle it. I'll never forget the picture of Brock pushing the lawnmower. Yes. He
Hands
had
up
such
behind.
steady arms and he just couldn't get that thing to go. And here's Mark just walking behind it like it's nobody's business. But yeah, I mean, you guys had chores and responsibilities at the house, and you had consequences. And it wasn't just me yelling at you, there were consequences, groundings, and allowance being taken away, or more chores. That was probably my big thing, was assigning more chores.
Fuck around and find out.
Yeah, yeah, I kind of said that at times too, I suppose. That's when the gentle parenting, we knew that I wasn't going to be a gentle parent.
I have
No,
a
just
story on chores for you, though. I
what's that?
remember
Am I
we would
going to
always assign chores
tricky?
during the summertime, and they were simple: unload the dishwasher, load the dishwasher, pick up the living room. Nothing we couldn't do. And you'd call us, and you'd say, "All right, I'm on my way home. You guys do your chores." And either mine was done, or I'd hurry up and do it.
Yeah.
And I'd yell down to Mark, "Mom's coming home. Get your chores done." And Mark wouldn't do it. Mark did not give a damn. That would irritate me so much because he had no responsibility and he didn't care.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Mom's coming home. I'm gonna play my game still.
Yeah. And then he'd get his game taken away and that'd piss him off and he'd get grounded to his room and he couldn't come out until it was clean. That was always the thing. You're not coming out till this room is clean. So I'd go in there and the room would be clean. I'd be like, all right, cool. Open up all the drawers of his dresser. And there's where all this stuff was. Yeah. It's kind of universal that that's how kids do it.
Yeah.
But you just do the best you can. And I do think, the foundation and doing what I did to get you guys, I was a tough parent. There was no gentle parenting. I had expectations, and I didn't think they were high or unreasonable expectations, but I had expectations, and you met those expectations and you followed the rules, and there were consequences if you didn't. And sometimes you just let natural consequences go too. I didn't have to get in the middle of everything. Mark, some of the antics he pulled at school, Mark Jason, and it wasn't anything bad, but it was just, okay, he got in trouble at school. Now he's going to stay after school, or he's missing recess, or this. Although I did struggle with him taking recess away because I've never believed in that, especially with boys. They got to get outside and burn off the energy, but sometimes it just needed to happen. So,
Go ahead, Marky.
Oh shoot. What's my next question? So it was pretty easy for you in our earlier years, but what about when we were both going through like our teenage years where we were kind of uh going through like puberty and stuff, and just like kind of having like those changes in like attitude and all that stuff, just that middle school year to basically our teen years. How was it like for the both of us? How is it for you to navigate that?
Well, in all honesty, I didn't have tough teenage years with either one of you boys because there were just behaviors that I did not allow. There wasn't
Like what? What was off limits?
slamming doors, screaming at me. You two would fight, and okay, that's just sibling fighting. But Brock and I would go back and forth. Brock always wanted the last word, and there was a lot of arguing. More so in the younger years. I think you kind of outgrew that when you got into middle school and high school. But your younger years, you were really challenging in that way. Everything was why. Even when you were 10 years old, why?
Do you remember that story? I can't tell it, but like I'd go, no, mom, 5 minutes, 3 minutes. Tell that story.
Oh, you're a negotiator. Yeah, you're a master negotiator. That's from when you were little. You wanted to stay up late and you're like 10 minutes and I'm like, "No, Brock. 5 minutes. No, mom, 3 minutes. Okay, buddy, you're on." Because you didn't know time, but you won, because you were always the negotiator, but Mark loved to go to bed. I told him it was time to go to bed. He's like, "Peace out, see ya," and he'd go to bed. It was great. But yeah, I don't. I always feel that I was able to handle the teenage years. You guys were good teenagers because of the foundation that was laid when you were so young. The boundaries, the expectations, the respect. Yelling at one another, the slamming doors, the screaming, the calling names. You hear so many stories of how teenagers treat their parents, and I just never allowed it, partly because it wasn't ever part of our family dynamic when you were little. We laughed a lot and played a lot, and I was never your playmate. I've never really felt parents need to take on that role of being your playmate, but we still played. My favorite memory is playing hide and seek, and Mark's got his head tucked under the bed and everything's else sticking out. But Mom, come find me.
There's a picture of that in his baby book or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would do fee fi fo fum and play the giant and chase you guys around the house with my voice. Yeah. Good times. But I truly believe there were highs and there were lows, but we navigated it as a family and we got through it and we celebrated the highs and we worked through the lows, and I think it's made us stronger. And I most definitely think that our highs and lows make who you are today. And I think that that's what helped Mark kind of head off to school. Brock, you loved school. You wanted to be there. Earning those good grades, that was your satisfaction. That's what you wanted. You enjoyed your teachers, you enjoyed your principals. You really liked school. You wanted to be involved. It was social. You had all your friends, but for Mark it was torture. And I remember it was like he was in grade school and it was the end of July and the back to school commercial came on and he cried. He was so pissed. Why are they ruining my summer? Those don't need to be on right now. I knew Mark hated school, and that was always hard for me as a mom, just trying to navigate and find different ways to get him through all of that. He hated to read, so I didn't make him read. I read stories to him and counted it off as okay. And now you know what they do, Mark? Now if parents read to their kids, they get to count them as books. So, yeah.
Really?
But that's what I mean, we would just find ways to do this. He was struggling with fractions and math, so I got him in the kitchen with me and we'd bake. And, the quarter cup, the half cup. That as a parent, that was probably my hardest, was trying to help Mark get through school. I truly had resigned myself that he was going to drop out at 16 because he knew he could drop out at 16. And he made me very aware that he knew what the law was and that he could drop out at 16. And oh man, so I'm looking at trade schools. Okay, I can't do it, but I'll always credit Mr. Larson. You're going to do this and you're going to do that. He got a hold of you. And even though it wasn't your passion, Mark, sports became a pride for you. It was probably about the end of your sophomore year into your junior year where you really knuckled down. Of course, then we're in COVID, so holy hell, we won't even go through that. But that's when you kind of realized, okay, I need to graduate and I probably better get serious about this, because your 16th birthday came and went and there was no talk about dropping out or being done. I truly credit being in a small school for you guys. You had 34 kids in your graduating class and you weren't just a number. And I truly think that made a huge difference.
I think that's something that a lot of parents don't understand today is that going to like the AA schools, I mean, like you're nothing in there. So like when you're in those schools, what's that going to be like for you outside of that? What's life going to be outside of school when you're still just a number? So, yeah, I think that was the best thing I think you taught both Brock and I is to just be independent. Don't rely on other people to make your life. You basically have to choose who you want to be. Or like what you just said, where you taught me how to bake in the kitchen. I know how to cook now. And it's honestly super easy for me to cook. It's just like I can eyeball it now. It's like that's too much or that's too little. Doing the taste test, cooking up spaghetti, goulash, doing lasagnas, chicken bakes, doing breakfasts. I love cooking up breakfast. I do that all the time. And so I think from a young age, you just kind of like fostering that, like, all right, so this isn't going to work out, but let's look at what the best option moving forward will be. I think that was probably one of the best things you could do for us is just teach us how to be independent and just teach us that like not everything is going to be handed to you. You have to do it yourself.
There's a quote that the hardest thing a mother does is to teach her children to leave her.
Yeah.
But that's what you want. You want your kids to be independent.
Mhm.
And teaching you boys to go off and find yourselves and be independent and do what you need to do. I mean,
Even though we're both across country.
yeah, that's a little hard on my mom heart sometimes, but I mean, my pride in you, it's all worth it. You're both very good men. You have good work ethics and you're kind and just amazing guys. And I do take a lot of pride in that. I don't discount the influence of your grandparents. Grandpa Lyle and his work ethic and how strong he is and how he doesn't, if there's something that needs to be done, he gets it done. Even at 88, he's out there on that farm just doing what needs to be done. And both of you boys have adopted that. Your grandpa Craig was the same way. He still is. If there's things that need to be done, you can sit and watch a movie or you can go out and get that done and then enjoy the movie in peace. It was just kind of like do your work first, play second. And the theory there is that, and I believe this, like now you can play without stress or guilt because my work's done. Now I can truly relax and enjoy. I don't have things hanging over me. There's just been a lot of people that have had strong influences. I look at Fletch and the impact he had on you, Brock, and Kevin Moritz with wrestling and the things that he taught you and your football coaches. I look at Mark and I truly do think the workout at the farm, he sends you out to pick rocks and clean cattle trucks. I kind of think that was done with some intent because I think he knew that you were better than, that you didn't need to be doing that grunt work. There was way more to life. His kids, his daughter was in college. His wife was college educated. He knew the power of education. And I'll always think that was kind of done with a little bit of push to get you to jar off center and go off to school. And it I just think it was a life lesson. And I think that there's a lot of life lessons out there that you boys were faced with that I didn't have anything to do with, helped you navigate them. But I think that's too what's made you who you are. And I'll never forget a quote that's always, always stuck with me and that I think all parents need to adopt is you can't protect your children from life.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's, things are going to happen. You're going to run into shitty people. You're going to run into people that aren't kind to you. You're going to run into people they're stealing from you or cheating you or something like that. But they're life lessons. You can't protect them from life. And even the wrongs of friendships. How many parents get in the middle and meddle in friendships? Granted, if it's heading into an unhealthy place, then yes. But sometimes you just got to let your kids go and navigate that stuff so they can build their own independence and find their own voice and learn that they can do this, they got this. And because of that, you boys weren't afraid to leave home. How many kids? I mean, it's the phenomenon today. I know part of it's financial, but there's a lot of kids that can't leave home. And I understand there's all kinds of circumstances, but there's also that group of kids that can't leave home because they can't leave the emotional bond, the insecurity of leaving home. I did not want that for you guys. I wasn't raised that way. My sisters weren't raised that way. My parents weren't raised that way. And I hope that when you have your kids, that you raise your kids to be independent and love them enough to let them leave the nest and love them enough to push them out of the nest. Kids should want to move on.
Mm-hmm.
Well said. Mark, I got a question for you. In your 22 years of life, what would you
Soon to be
say
23.
in your 22 years of life, what would you say that your proudest moment about mom is and who she is today throughout your life, and what she's done for you?
Proudest moment of my mother. Oh, geez. There's so many of them. I just can barely pick one. I think it would have to be, looking back at it now, I don't think I appreciated it as much when I was a kid, but when she just always had my back in school, she would always have my back like, okay, well, what are you guys doing to help him grow? Grade school especially was for me was so hard, and even getting into middle school was so hard. I was constantly in trouble. I remember this one time, I'm not gonna lie, I was an ass. Said that on my last podcast, but when it was the final straw, my last push, and she came flying in there and she raised some hell. And she told them that what you guys are doing is wrong. You do not treat a kid like this. You do not tell him that he's going to be like this when he is growing up. I am ashamed of you guys. I am disgusted of you guys. This will be Mark's last day here, and we left. And I never came back. And so I just think teaching me that, you got to stand up for yourself and you really got to like push back for yourself. I think that's something that I'm really proud that mom taught us, or taught me especially. It's just like, you don't get treated like that. If you don't like the way you're being treated, you stand up for yourself and you tell them to rather you treat me with respect and you treat me right, or I'm out of here. And that's really helped me out through life a few times, especially going into kind of like my college years and whatnot, and being a little bit more stern with people in the college atmosphere has really kind of helped me out, and even helped me out. I've become like an RA and a hall director, finding your voice, being independent, and just knowing when to take the high roads and when just to kind of sit back and see how things play out. That's my favoriteest thing to do. But just honestly, sticking up for me and then teaching me to kind of have a voice for myself and to have more confidence and empowerment.
Amen.
Yeah.
What about you, Brock?
I was just trying to, if I'm sitting here just thinking, like, it's hard for me to pick just one proud moment because there's so many awesome moments to pick from, and whether it be big or small, I think every time I see you after not seeing you for 6 months, because obviously I live 1,500 miles away now in the city, and you're still back home in Conrad of 2,100 people, I just get a feeling and overwhelmed with pride. And one that really sticks out happened my freshman year of high school, and I was in the homecoming parade, and it was the first time of really stepping into that leadership role that I'm on the varsity football team, and like I was just starting to make my mark in that school. And as the float rolled down the street, I was waving and smiling and getting caught up in the energy and the moment of it all, throwing kids at candy. I remember we'd try and
Candy
peg.
at kids.
Yeah, candy at kids, not kids at
Throwing
candy.
kids at
Yeah.
candy.
Um, we'd try and peg our friends with candy. We ended up getting in trouble for that, but
Yeah, they banned candy at parades now. Maybe it's because of you and your antics. No, I'm kidding.
probably. But I I just saw you and Grandpa standing there, and I saw you guys in the crowd, and you guys had that look on your face where, the one where it's a mix of tears and like the biggest smile in the world. And I just felt proud for you, and I felt proud for Grandpa, because that moment was everything that kind of hit me. The years that you have spent pouring into me, the sacrifices that you made when nobody else was looking, the nights that you stayed up worrying about how she was going to make everything work, but you still would get up at the butt crack of dawn and drink your coffee and keep going. And seeing you there was always a highlight. I always look forward to the parade during homecoming, because seeing you and Grandpa Lyle there cheering for me, you always were, and it made me realize that it wasn't something I've done, but I was there because everything that you had done. And in that moment, it was like a full circle, because what was just the beginning of a new chapter stepping into high school. The reason I was even getting prepared for that moment was because of you. Like your love, your strength, your belief in me, even when I didn't believe in myself, or when I believed in myself too much, because I was cocky. And I thought I was the cock of the walk because I was on the varsity football team.
What's
Yeah.
going on, Mark?
Huh?
What is going on?
Yeah, I'm laughing. I'm trying not to laugh. I'm trying to hold it in because Brock's being serious, and I'm trying not to interrupt the moment.
Oh, yeah. Well,
But
sometimes
I don't
you
know.
just
That
want
moment
to
was
be
just full circle
serious.
for me.
Yeah.
And I'm proud of you for 1,000 reasons, but that moment, seeing your face in the crowd my freshman year of high school, is one that I'll never forget. Because that moment,
He's
no
got
matter
the
how far
giggles
I go
now.
or what I achieve, it all traces back to my foundation, my
Right.
example, my biggest supporter, and my number one fan. And so to this day, that memory just makes me emotional, because it represents everything that you are, with the selflessness and strong.
So you forgive me for not making it to some of your games?
You are forgiven.
Oh, thanks.
Whoa.
But speaking about Mark laughing, we'll switch gears since Mark's laughing. Mark, you used to always get in trouble, and I would laugh at you, and I'd be the one that gets in trouble because I was laughing at you for getting in trouble. What the
You
hell?
guys antagonize the shit out of one another.
Oh, we did.
Believe me, I listened to it.
I think one thing I really like that mom did is she kind of forced us out of our comfort zone and kind of forced us to go do something. Go, like, you're too cooped up in the house. Like, go and do something.
She said, "Go
And so,
outside."
yeah, like,
Oh
go
gosh, are we
outside,
going to tell that story?
go be boys and whatnot. And so my favorite story is I'm inside and I'm playing, and I don't know if mom saw that the neighbor dogs were out. But so I'm in the house, I'm hanging out, and she's like, "Marky, why don't you go outside and play?" And I'm like, I don't wanna go outside." And
It
so
was summer.
it was summertime, and so we were going out, and I'm playing in the garage. Well, the neighbor dogs were in the garage, and the dog came and attacked me and bit my leg and started shaking my leg super violently. And the coolest part is
Cool.
that our Our cat, Marnie, came and attacked the dogs for attacking me.
I
And she
didn't
was
know that.
she jumped on top of that dog and started clawing at his eyes, and he let go and started running off, and Marnie chased the dog away. And so that was pretty. That's when the neighbors called mom and was like, Carrie, there's dogs attacking your son outside, and mom's inside doing whatever. She was oblivious to the whole thing.
Yeah, I told him to go be a boy and play outside. He's fine.
I got attacked by a dog. And so anyways, the police show up, and they're talking everything. And that's when you come outside. I get my legs bleeding because I just got chewed up by a dog, and so I still have that scar on my leg today from where that dog's tooth went into my leg. Yeah, yeah, that was great. You forced us out of our comfort zone, and you really taught me a lesson.
I was a sophomore in high school, and I said I was going to go to a friend's house. And I ended up going to Butte on a football recruiting trip with one of the seniors, and I drank with college students. We got a little taste of Butte, Montana, my sophomore year of high school. Surprise. But we'll wrap up here. Mom, I have one last question for you. If you could leave a message to your younger self, the mom who was just starting out with two young boys, what would you tell her? It'll feel better once it quits hurting.
Right on.
I had big parenting fails. Mark went to a house party and got shitty drunk. I kind of had a feeling that was going to happen, but I didn't stop it.
Yeah.
Yeah, what were you, 15, 16 years old? I don't
I
know.
was a freshman, yeah.
And then the time you landed at a house party and ate pot brownies, was that you or Brock?
That was
Somebody did
me.
that.
That was
So,
me.
you have parenting fails, but in the end, it's who you turn out to be as adults, as young men, as soon to be husbands and fathers. That's what matters. It doesn't matter that you had Fruity Pebbles for dinner one night or 2 nights in a row or maybe the whole week because you didn't get to the grocery store.
Yeah,
You do the best you can,
we're all a little fucked up.
but it's all right.
Exactly. But thank you, Mom. Honestly,
You're
your words
welcome.
mean more to us than we could ever put into words ourselves.
Good.
We are so grateful for everything that you've done for us and for the love that you continue to pour into our lives. Happy Mother's Day. We love you
Thank
so
you.
much.
What have you been thinking about recently, Mother?
As a mom, you look back on how you raised your kids and you can have regrets and shoulda, wouldas, and couldas. And sometimes those will get to me, not having more patience, losing my temper, not doing more things with you to fill your cup as young men and boys. I didn't go out and throw a football. I didn't know how to throw a football, but I do regret some of that I didn't do more of that. But I have to give myself grace because I did the best I could with what I was able to do at the time. And yeah, being a single mom to two boys, it was challenging, but I don't look at it with any regret. I truly have no regrets for the big picture. I have regrets on some of the day-to-day stuff that I could have been better. I could have had a better version of myself, but I don't have regrets over the big picture. You guys both graduated high school. You're good, amazing men. As I've already said, I can't keep heaping praises, but I just encourage parents out there to give themselves grace. And I encourage kids to give their parents grace. There's a lot of parent shaming and parent blaming for how kids are. But you know what? There just comes a point where they're free thinking individuals and they're making those decisions for themselves. And parents can't shoulder the blame for that. And I don't think kids should blame their parents, especially adult children. It's time to build a bridge and get over it. And I'm talking in generalities. I'm fully aware there's dysfunction and trauma out there. But to just, move on. Your parents did the best they could with what they knew how at the time. And, they'll always say, well, I raised my kids the same. And I always say, no, I did not. Because when I had Brock, it was just me and Brock. When I had Mark, there was another child in the house that had to compete for his attention. So he didn't get the same attention that Brock did. I had 4 years alone with Brock, and then here comes Mark, and I've got, so it, I'm going to slap you too silly for the stuff you're doing. All right, I'm done. Brock, do your thing.
Well, thank you for sharing your heart with us, and we'll never stop being grateful for you, Mom. We love you, and we hope that this episode helps other people see how special that you truly are to us. I just really am so thankful for everything you've done. So I just want to end this episode by saying this has been a special edition of the Stories That Shape Us, Mother's Day edition. Join us each week for real stories, real growth, and real impact. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next week.